Okay, this is a small video on just double checking that everybody's on the same page with how to post properly. Because we've had something on every single team where we've had a few people kind of going outside of the normal parameters of how you use your WordPress. First of all, I'm going to pulled up in this page. This particular team has 4 posts of their own. I've left a gallery post example, a video post example, and a VC and big header example. I'll go back and rename those on every other team's type of thing, but these are alternate formats. You're going to have to do at least a couple of gallery posts, which is just where this thing is going to slide between all these images automatically, or you could speed it up to get it to do that. So that's the gallery post one, where it slips through a kind of a slideshow of pictures. Video post, they're going to be very small, but it automatically pops up and it's ready to play in Vimeo or in YouTube, whatever you want to do. And this is the one with the big header, where it stretches all the way across the page. Doesn't have the little teeny blog bar. Picture doesn't have to be this narrow, but this is when you finally take some big grand photograph or something like that. I'm leaving these in everybody's post list, but I don't want them to show up in your sliders or anywhere on the site. So one of the easiest things to do on this is to click on all 3 of these, and I'm going to say bulk actions, edit, apply. And on these ones, I am going to change the status of each one of these to draft. And by doing that, they're all going to say the word draft at the end of them here as soon as this is done saving. And that way they're never going to be in the mix. They won't show up in a sidebar. They won't show up in a slider. They're there as templates. There's some other ones in the trash, but most of those are examples that you'll probably never need this semester. So at this point, we only have 4 good posts. Problem is I'm not so sure I'd call these all 4 good posts. Again, remember, every team had people with difficulty doing this, so I'm just going to walk through how to get around this. This particular post, everything is looking good here up at the top. It's got a featured image set. We can turn off this green hover if you don't want it. It's a very simple request you just have to make to me. Everything's fine, and then all of a sudden, I know we have this tiny little picture just embedded in line inside the text. And that's something we need to get away from doing. It's not responsive, and in some ways, it is a very, very tiny thumbnail, too small to be able to use. And since the way this was put in there, if you were to try to increase the size of it, it's only going to resize the quality of the thumbnail, so it'll look really, really awful. This one here, let's just take a peek. I said you could do whatever you wanted to in terms right now of just typing in song lyrics. That's great. Just realize that when you do hit a return at the end of each line, you have these really big gaps. And then once again, we have this tiny embedded picture sitting here at the bottom. This one, it's okay, but the image that's placed in there is so low res, I'm not sure you can really see it off of this little screen, but it's getting pretty jagged. And this one here, oh, I guess that's all of the ones that I saw right there. So it's no big deal because almost every team had some kind of issue doing this with at least 1 or 2 of their first 4 or 5 they put up, and that's why we're doing these right now to get ready for the big launch this coming week. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to just close each one of those down. And I'm going to go back to the post things and let's kind of diagnose each one of these individually. I'm going to open up that one, this one. Let's just see what we've got. When you want to set a featured image, all you have to do is put it in the featured image location. You don't want to try to embed it inside the text box. Matter of fact, for the most part, you don't want to put any picture inside the actual text box of the post. There's better ways to add the photograph. So let's take a look at this one first. If it ever opens. Okay, this is the one where maybe we don't want to have so many hard returns in there, but that's okay. But the picture's embedded down here at the bottom. Well, one thing you could do, and I would not suggest doing this necessarily, is click on the picture, tell it to be aligned left, grab one of the corners, and just like in any Adobe program, hold down the shift button while you drag it out to be about 800 pixels or so. It doesn't necessarily need to be 1920. And then when I've got that set, there it is. It's ready to go. The only thing is I know that it's going to be really low res. So I'm going to do a little trick here just so you can see the comparison, and come back and click on the backend editor like I'm going to do this in Visual Composer. And here's the text block. You can definitely ask for help on this if you need it. But if I come in here and click at the bottom of the column, it says prepend. That just means add something else in the same block. Yep. What I'm looking for is the single image, which is the easiest way to be able to add a photograph that's inside of a text block. And I'm just going to hit image. Just click on that box. Go here to the media library, find it, which I know it's a huge image, 1900 pixels wide. Tell it to set the image. And there are other options that you can do inside this if you want to. I can say that on click it would do something like open it up in a light box or something like that. Right here it normally loads them saying run full size, but you could enter some different dimension if you wanted to. My suggestion is don't, just leave it the way it is. And then if I come back and hit preview on this, as soon as that's done redrawing, here's my text. And then we come down, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on the screen, but there's the photograph, and it's still not quite running the entire width of the post. I said pull it out to 800 pixels. Maybe it should have been a little bit wider, just at least at the size that this screen is showing it at. But here it is, and then here's the one that I placed in. And I'm not sure you can really see the difference on this tiny video, but this looks like the real picture. This is pretty nasty and low res and JPEG, and the main reason for that was literally placing it inside the text box when it didn't need to be. That's the problem right there with that one. So what I'm going to just do is I'm going to go ahead and put this, I'm going to go ahead and just say delete the image that I put in. So now we're back to just the stuff in the text box. I'll go turn back to the classic mode, which is the normal blogging mode. Just scroll on down. And I'm just going to click on this picture because, again, it's too low res to use. I don't even need to worry about getting rid of some of that extra junk with the brackets, but I can in this case because I know that I don't want it. And then I'm going to go ahead and go back, and what I should have done on this image is with the headline, put my text in here, pick standard, picked my category, cool, picked my tag, and then scrolled on down here and to where I get the set featured image and click on this. And this is where I should add the picture. Click. As soon as it pops up. By adding it through here, it automatically knows what it's supposed to do. It automatically resizes the image. And then I'm just going to hit update. And then as soon as that's done saving, I'm going to hit the preview button here. And we'll be able to see not only that the picture looks better, but also that it puts it in the place where the picture is supposed to be, which is at the top, which is, I'm assuming, what everybody was doing. So again, this is just our first example. Some people had more success than others. Let's just put it that way, and that's fine. That's why we were just doing it this way, so I could see how everybody was able to do. So as soon as this is done redrawing, there it is. The picture's up at the top. You probably can't really tell from the screen, but the quality is quite a bit better. And then everything is set up the way that it's supposed to be. So that's all we really need to do there. We could go back and pick through each of these other ones and the same type of thing. I wouldn't have this picture here. If I really wanted to have this picture and it was an addition to the set featured image down here, fantastic. But what I'd probably be tempted to do is to not try to place it in there and then use these buttons or try to resize. That's just not really what it's built for. Instead, just put the text on in. And then maybe I'd say, let's just pretend that the text was a little bit longer. So I'll do this. And then decide, you know what? Actually, what I'd really like to do is I'd like to put a picture halfway through the story. Okay, well again, that's when I go to the back-end editor. What I'd probably have to do here is duplicate the text block. All right. Then I'd come into the first text block. Let's just say I'm going to put the photograph halfway in between. So I'm going to open up the text block, and I'm going to keep this beginning stuff. But right about here is where I'm going to go ahead and delete those two paragraphs, so it's shorter. And then I'm going to come into the second text block, and I'm going to delete, let's just say, the first half of the text. And then I'm going to add another object to the same column. So probably the easiest thing to do is just not to add a new row or an element, but to come down here to this tiny little plus sign at the bottom of the column where it says prepend to the column. Click on that. Again, I can either type up here in the search window image or single image. That's the one that I want. Click on this little plus symbol to add the picture that I want. That one. Click set image. I know that it's already set up to be full because I wrote the command for that, so this will be just fine the way it is. Hit save change, and then I'm going to grab this block that says single image, and when I can hover on it and the name of it turns dark green, I'm going to push and hold, and I'm going to drag it up. And when I kind of see this gray bar between the two things, I'm going to let it go. And then at this point, we're going to see the featured image at the top, the text right in here. Then we're going to have the single image, and then it's going to go on with some more text. So I'll just come up here and say preview changes. And that way I've got the set featured image, which again is what I need for all the thumbnails on the site to work. That's what I need it for it to work in all the sliders and stuff. I've got some text, then all of a sudden, boom, I've got a picture, but it resizes it so it's crisp and clear, and then I come back to more text, and everything is good. The last thing I'm going to add on this video is all of these different options for people to be able to send this, to be able to share it. These are fantastic, and it's great that the site already has this built in. Problem is, sometimes it's like any situation. Sometimes when people are staring at 20 different choices of pizza, they can't make their decision. When you go watch any one of those design shows or fashion shows, the first thing any professional person comes in and does is says, cut your menu in half. Get rid of a lot of the things in the room. Simplify, simplify, simplify. And they're doing it because they even know that, again, when people have too many choices, they tend to make no choice at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to go back through over the weekend and set everybody's page up to limit those choices, but I'm going to show you where they are so that you could add some of them back in if you think I ripped out too many of them. It's difficult to set it as an individual thing for each separate post unless you wanted to have to write short codes and pop those in at the bottom by hand, which I do not suggest. That would just be adding a lot of extra work to what you're trying to do. So instead, go back to the site, come back to the section that's marked blog, and I'm going to go through on all the sites and do this. There's not much here for us to set up. This is just where we're saying that it has the sidebar and all that kind of stuff. But here's the share box stuff. I'm going to turn off the LinkedIn, the Tumblr, the Pinterest, the Google Plus, and the email. And that way I'm only going to leave the Facebook and the Twitter on. The author didn't include an Instagram button, so I'll go back through in the next week and add that by hand and go ahead and add that to everybody's site. But after I hit save changes now, if I was to redraw any of these posts, at the bottom of the story, it's just going to say Facebook and Twitter. Simplify. So if you want to even get rid of the Facebook because you don't have a Facebook account, great. If you think that maybe somebody might, who is reading the post, want to share it with some other person on Facebook and mention where they read this thing, that'd be cool. You could leave that on there, but I'll make sure that at least we have the Twitter and the Instagram on here, but I'm going to turn this off on the rest of them. Again, be careful of where you post the pictures. Do not post the pictures in the middle of this text block unless you're willing to come up here and switch this from the normal writing mode to the back-end editor and draw a separate visual composer element for that thing. Otherwise, you're going to end up with pictures that just display really nasty and are really, all it's doing is it's not really placing the picture in there, it's placing the thumbnail, and then it's resizing the low-resolution thumbnail, and they never intended you to do that, so I'm not even sure, in some ways, how you were able to do that. So please keep an eye on that as you're continuing to post new content starting next week. Thanks.